In the isolated village of Varith Hollow, surrounded by misty cliffs and black lakes, a girl named Alira was born under a blood moon. Her family, known as the Hollow Line, had never married outsiders for centuries, bound by a prophecy that claimed purity would protect them from a curse that ravaged the outside world. Alira's birth was marked by silence. Not even her cries could break it. She grew with pale eyes that shimmered violet and skin that bruised at the lightest touch. The villagers whispered she was the rarest of the rare, a living sigil, the product of so much inbreeding that her body echoed ancient magic. Her mother, Salia, watched her daughter with fear and reverence. The elders gave Alira a room in the Hall of Glass, a chamber lined with mirrors said to reveal one's true essence. From infancy, Alira stared at her reflection longer than she slept. By age 5, she could mimic anyone's voice. By 8, she could recite dreams people hadn't yet told her. But something darker stirred. Her reflection began moving when she didn't. One night, the mirror cracked, and she smiled. By her 12th year, Alira no longer spoke unless asked. Her silence unsettled the village, but the elders, keepers of Varith Hollow's buried secrets, were fascinated. They believed Alira could be the key to awakening the ancestrus, a mythical matriarch said to dwell in the underrealm of memory. They convened in the Tower of Still Breath, their bones wrapped in ceremonial linen, their voices coarse with dust. Salia begged them to leave her daughter alone. But Alira had already begun dreaming in tongues no one remembered. The mirrors in the Hall of Glass now showed not only reflections, but scenes of ancestors long dead, reenacting long-forgotten rites. To test her power, the elders performed the bargain ritual. Alira was placed between two stone effigies of the ancestress. Her hands were slit with a blade carved from ancestral bone. Blood soaked the ground. The wind stilled. And then, from her throat, came a voice none had heard in centuries. A voice that called each elder by their birth name, even those kept secret. Terrified, one elder fled and later threw himself into the Black Lake. The rest called her blessed. But Salia knew better. She saw Alira's eyes flicker black after the ritual, just for a moment. Alira was no longer fully theirs. After the ritual, Alira stopped sleeping. Her dreams spilled into waking life. Her mother heard her speaking in voices, a weeping boy, a jealous grandmother, a priest who hadn't lived in Varith Hollow for 2 centuries. It was as if the walls themselves had begun to speak through Alira. She spent most of her time in the Hall of Glass until, one night, she vanished. Salia searched frantically until she heard whispering beneath the floorboards. Pleas, lullabies, threats, laughter. She tore back the carpet in Alira's chamber and found a loose stone panel. Under it, a narrow stairwell spiraled down. There, deep in the underground catacombs, she found Alira, barefoot, eyes closed, standing in a circle of bones. Around her, the walls were covered in handprints of all sizes and ages. Alira spoke calmly. They want to return. When Salia asked who they were, the girl opened her eyes. Our family, mother. All of them. When they emerged, Alira brought something with her, a small doll made of hair and bone, which she called the sister. No one had ever seen it before, but she insisted it had been passed down from the original ancestress. From that day on, Alira carried it everywhere. It never blinked, but villagers claimed its face changed subtly depending on who was watching. One morning, the sun rose over Varith Hollow, but nothing cast a shadow. Not trees, not homes, not people. Panic set in as villagers ran through the square holding up lamps and lanterns. No shadows emerged. They turned to the Hall of Glass, now considered sacred, hoping Alira could explain. She sat in front of the largest mirror, the doll's sister, clutched to her chest, humming an unknown melody. The mirror no longer reflected anything. Its surface was smooth, black, and pulsing faintly like skin. When the elders arrived, Alira simply said, "The ancestress is hungry." They believed this meant a sacrifice. A girl was chosen, Mira, a distant cousin of Alira's, also of the Hollow Line. She was locked in the tower overnight. But when they returned in the morning, Mira was gone. In her place stood Alira, holding the doll, now wearing Mira's shawl. She claimed she never left the hall. From that day on, no one saw Mira again. Alira began to speak in her voice when alone. When villagers asked her questions, she answered using words Mira once used. The doll, too, appeared to shift its face slightly to resemble Mira's features. It was then the village began to whisper that Alira didn't merely talk to the dead, she kept them. That autumn, the crops in Verith Hollow ripened overnight, every stalk of wheat golden, every apple deep red. But when villagers began harvesting, they found something strange, the fruit and grain bled. Not sap, not juice, blood. Warm, pulsing blood. The elders forbade anyone from eating it, declaring it an omen. But the younger villagers, hungry and rebellious, did not listen. Within days, those who ate the bloodied harvest began to change. Their skin turned pale and thin, their teeth sharper, their dreams invaded by visions of the Hall of Glass. Alira, now 15, walked through the fields barefoot, singing. Wherever she passed, the bleeding stopped. She touched the fruit and whispered to it, and it grew silent and dry. She told the elders, the land remembers. The land reclaims. The phrase was later carved into the village gate. Then came the Harvest Fire Festival, a tradition predating even the Hollow Line. That year, the bonfire would not light. Alira arrived and placed Sister at the pyre's base. Without flint or flame, it ignited, roaring high, casting shadows for the first time since Mira vanished. But those shadows danced in unnatural ways. They did not follow their owners. Some ran, some reached. One even attacked a man, leaving him burned where no fire touched him. The villagers watched as Alira smiled and whispered, "Now they are free." The largest mirror in the Hall of Glass, once inert and mute, began to breathe. Its surface would fog up and clear in rhythm, like lungs filling and emptying. Villagers who stepped too close reported feeling windless gusts, as if the mirror exhaled secrets only the brave could hear. Alira grew quieter, her words more cryptic. She no longer seemed entirely herself. Sometimes, her voice came out deeper. Sometimes, she called people by names they had never spoken aloud. One morning, she instructed the elders to bring her every reflective surface in the village. Shiny pots, shards of old windows, even polished belt buckles, all were placed in the hall. There, Alira arranged them in a spiral, with Sister at the center. Then she stepped into the center and whispered, "Now I see." The mirrors rippled. Each began to show different scenes, strangers weeping in foreign lands, other women with violet eyes and distant pasts, versions of Alira laughing, screaming, aging, dying. It was not just time or place being reflected, but possibility. Then the largest mirror cracked, not shattered, but split neatly down the center. From the fissure came a hand, white, wet, and trembling. Alira did not scream. She only knelt and said, "Welcome back, grandmother." The hand pulled itself further, revealing a woman who looked like Alira but older, rotted slightly, eyes glowing black with violet rings. The ancestress had returned. The ancestress, now in flesh, did not speak often, but when she did, her words echoed twice, once from her mouth and once from the bones of the earth. The villagers called it the double voice. She never walked. She floated inches above the ground, her hair drifting as though submerged. She said she had returned for a union. The elders feared what this meant, but Alira understood. "A marriage of blood and memory," she whispered. The ancestress sought not a husband, but a bond, a merging of her mind with Alira's, to complete the hollow circle and ensure the family's power would never dilute again. Preparations began. A wedding dress was sewn from generations of family hair. Ribbons soaked in ancestral ash were woven into it. The ceremony was held at dusk, under a sky veiled in crimson mist. Villagers stood silent as Alira walked toward the ancestress, both barefoot, both wearing veils of bone lace. At the altar, which was an altar only in shape, made of twisted mirrors and bone pillars, Alira offered the doll Sister. The ancestress accepted it and placed her hand over Alira's heart. For a moment, they both stopped breathing. Then came the sound, like thousands of whispers reversed. The villagers fell to their knees as their reflections vanished from every surface. Only Alira and the ancestress remained reflected, fused into one. From that day forward, Alira spoke in the double voice. After the union, Alira stopped aging. The villagers noticed first when a decade passed, and she remained exactly 16, her violet eyes brighter, her skin smoother, untouched by time. But that was not the only change. Soon, Children were born in Verith Hollow with no names. When asked, their mothers would simply say, they came. These children bore no marks of traditional birth. They arrived soundlessly during the night, wrapped in black cloth on the thresholds of family homes. Their eyes were mirror glass. They spoke in unison, though no one taught them how to speak at all. The villagers feared them. The elders recorded their presence, but dared not interfere. Elira, now called the Hollow Bride, welcomed each child by touching their foreheads and whispering something inaudible. It was said the children could walk through walls of glass. They never blinked. They never cried. They stood behind people in mirrors, and sometimes ahead of them. Salia, grown old and frail, begged Elira to stop. You are breaking what little remains of us, she said. Elira responded in the double voice. I am returning what was always ours. When Salia died, no one remembered her funeral. Her face faded from family portraits. Her voice disappeared from memory. Even her grave was blank, save one word, folded. The children without names began gathering near the lake at night. They sang without mouths. And one day, they all pointed east, toward the edge of the hollow. Elira smiled. They remember the way home. The day the children began to walk, the ground vibrated, not from their steps, but from something older waking beneath it. All 47 nameless children, led by Elira, began a slow, synchronized march toward the eastern cliffs where the world was believed to end. The villagers tried to stop them. They formed lines, raised prayers, even built barricades. But the children passed through wood and stone like mist. Their mirrored eyes reflected only darkness. As they walked, time warped. The sky remained twilight no matter the hour. Birds fell silent. Shadows lengthened and bent in strange directions. The Hollow Bride wore a new robe that shimmered like mercury. She spoke only once to the villagers gathered in horror. We are going to complete this circle. Some followed, entranced. Others wept in place. The elders sealed the hall of glass behind them, hoping it would halt the curse. But the moment the children reached the edge of the cliffs, the stone cracked. From beneath, a massive glass-like root system rose, veins of obsidian mirror bursting through soil and rock. Each root pulsed with memories, the cries of ancestors, the prayers of mothers, the sins of forgotten fathers. Elira stepped onto the root and looked down into the abyss. Here lies the first womb, she said. Then she jumped. The children followed, one by one, without fear or scream. No bodies were found. Only the echo of laughter, rising from the deep like wind through broken bells. After Elira and the nameless children vanished, Verith Hollow grew quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects, no voices. The lake turned to glass, reflecting not the sky above, but a dark expanse filled with stars that moved in reverse. The villagers found that when they looked into the lake, they saw versions of themselves that had never existed. Some joyful, some monstrous, some dead. A few threw themselves in, hoping to meet the other side. None returned. Then the sky changed. Overnight, it became a single vast mirror. The clouds were gone. The sun became a faint halo, like a reflection of itself. Stars blinked in and out unnaturally, and the moon bled silver tears across the glassy dome. From the center of the lake rose a tower of bone and glass, spiraling endlessly upward. Inside it, a reflection waited, Elira, yet not Elira. Taller, ageless, with eyes like black galaxies. She spoke through reflections, cups, windows, pools, even tears. Her voice was now layered with thousands, and none of them human. She offered no threats, no blessings. Only one sentence. The hollow is not a place, it is a return. The villagers vanished, one by one. Some left only their shadows behind, stuck in place like burned silhouettes. Others simply folded, collapsing inward as if their bodies had given up remembering how to hold shape. Salia's name reappeared briefly on her grave, and then it faded again, along with everything else. Now only the mirror sky remains. Some say if you stare long enough, you'll see your truest self staring back. Others say that's not you. It's Elira, waiting to pull you home.